Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And Hampton has a lot of history. We know that we're more than 400 years old. But today we're going to focus on a slice of Hampton's history that is 100 years old, and that is Boy Scout Troop 31. My guests are Mike Salka and Chris McCall. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a big landmark. Like, I remember when my Boy Scout troop turned 50 and we thought that was a big deal. 100 years old?
Yes.
Wow. So tell us where you guys are based, and we think you're the oldest troop in the city of Hampton. Is that right?
That is correct. We are chartered in June of 1918 out at Fort Monroe. We've been at Fort Monroe consistently since then. We've had different chartering organizations that have hosted us, but currently the Chapel of the Centurion is once the base closed, and the chapel has brought us corrupt in the different Army organizations that had chartered us. Chapel of the Centurion adopted us, if you will, and has been a fantastic chartering organization since.
Now, this is a little bit of a stereotype, but I think it's true that members of the military and the Boy Scouts have a long history together. You guys are both military families. It is something that, whether it's the organization or the structure or the outdoors, or when you move to a new place, you can find people that you know. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but it is a long history, right?
Well, Robin, I think you hit the nail on the head of a bunch of different things that draw people to Boy Scouts. But I think the important thing is Boy Scouts is not a military organization.
Nope.
It's certainly open to all families and all boys. But I think that there are a lot of those points that you brought up, the structure and the development, the character development, the leadership development that military members seek out and want to project onto their boys as well.
Well, and I also think members of the military are service-oriented and community-oriented and great volunteers. And so the Boy Scout organization benefits from that. Girl Scouts too. I mean, I think it's a tradition. So what are you guys doing to mark your 100th anniversary?
Well, we've had several different events that have occurred. First, we represented the Fort Monroe Authority at the gubernatorial inauguration back in January.
Hey, wait, I just want to interrupt. Was that cool? Did you get to go?
Yes, it was. We got to see the whole inauguration. It was pretty interesting, and I've never been to an inauguration before. So.
I haven't either. I think it's just a cool moment in history, and to be able to witness it at your age as opposed to my age kind of makes it even cooler. Okay.
So in addition, we had an expanded what we call Scout Sunday. Scout Sunday is a normal event every year where many of the troops around the country are sponsored by churches, and being a faith-based organization, it's a time where the Scouts will come in and be recognized by in the church, but also to help with the churches in their services. So it had an expanded deal with some of the alumni and dignitaries coming and attending. Then our big celebration has been Memorial Day weekend. We had an alumni gathering out at Fort Monroe at the Ouzel Finch. Then we've had what I think is the coolest part. The Boy Scouts have about 180 historic trails around the country. We developed a historic trail for Boy Scouts, although it's open to anybody can come and hike.
That's what I was going to say. I need a copy of this map. I think I want to do it too.
Well, and it'll be posted on several different websites. The Colonial Virginia Council of Boy Scouts, they technically own the trail. It will be on their website. It'll also be on the Fort Monroe Authority's website and the National Park Service Fort Monroe website. It can be downloaded, and it's public land. Anybody can go and hike it, and that. Boy Scouts, as they do it as an event, they'll be able to earn a patch and an assembly an ensemble that they can wear on their uniform and that. So we had our inaugural hike the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Then after that, we had some various different troop activities, both with the boys and the alumni. We had a dinner with the chartering organization at the Chapel of Centurion there to both thank the chartering organization and celebrate with them and the alumni. Then we had a big camp out celebration there. Got to camp inside the moat on the parade ground at Fort Monroe.
Oh, wow.
So that was a neat experience. And then at the Music by the Bay, we've had on June 7th, it will be dedicated to Troop 31 and the centennial celebration. And then throughout the summer, every year for Music by the Bay, the troop sells hot dogs out on Thursday nights. So come out, get your hot dogs, and enjoy some music. And
as an outsider, I was going to say that is the thing that you guys are most known for is, like you don't have to pack a picnic to come to this concert.
That's right.
Because you guys are always there selling hot dogs and chips or drinks or whatever else. It's extremely convenient and wonderful. And I imagine it's a decent fundraiser for you all too.
that's generally our big fundraiser for the year.
So Boy Scouts have undergone a lot of changes over 100 years. It
Yes.
is a very different organization than it once was, but it's in other ways, kind of still the same. It is about leadership. It's about the outdoors. It's about learning skills. How do you think, Boy Scouts in general, or Troop 31 specifically, relates to today's students? Because we're talking about like 6th graders through high school, right? Or halfway through into fifth grade, I guess, when they cross over.
Yep.
What do you get out of it? Maybe is a better question than making you speak for an entire generation.
I get out a lot of leadership opportunities. Like you never really get to lead a whole group of kids any other thing unless you're on like a sports team. But it's still, you don't have to organize things. You don't have to like send out emails to everyone. And I also get a bunch of skills that you can use later in life, like first aid. Any of these badges, you have to earn them by doing a skill. You have to learn. So that's what I've been really getting out of Boy Scouts.
Why do you think, is there something about it that kids don't know or don't understand? Like, do you think more kids, it would work for more students?
I think it would be a very useful thing for most people to do, because most people see Boy Scouts as like that thing that like kind of like nerds do, but like
Really?
it's a very good opportunity to use to learn new skills that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Like, again, first aid, that's a really big one, because you're already going to have to learn that eventually. So if you just learn it now, then it's just a refresher later.
It's funny because I always thought of it as the outdoorsy kids. I mean, my son's troop went on a camp out once a month, even in the winter. I mean, some of them were kind of indoors or limited or whatever. But to me, it was not the nerds. It was the kids who wanted to go and be in a tent by themselves. I mean, it was getting outdoors. It was getting away from school and homework. I mean, you had to do that still, but it was your chance to be outside and be a kid, which I think, geez, our students don't always get today. Our lives are so programmed. And this is programmed, but it's always also something where you're exploring. Well, your troop, I'm going to guess, has sustained some ups and downs over 100 years. Any troop has. But especially with the transition at Fort Monroe. I mean, you kind of had a built-in audience of people who could walk to the meetings and, whose families were right there on the Army base when it was an Army base. Has involvement dipped and waned? Are we on solid footing? I mean, what keeps this troop going?
Well, I'll say my involvement in Troop 31, it started just as the base was closing. As you mentioned, military family, I retired from the Navy. And, we moved in 2010. Just as the whole closing and BRAC process was really kind of taking effect. I wouldn't say starting, because that's probably multi-decade
Yeah, it's been
thing.
started
But,
a long time before that.
But I would say, the troop it's swelled and shrank a little bit in numbers, but more or less stayed pretty consistent. One of the nice things is, granted, for a year or two while they were doing the transition, the housing, families moved out and nobody moved in. But now housing out at Fort Monroe is booming, and
Yeah.
we're drawing those families in. The irony, there's still, as you alluded, a lot of military families that are involved. I think it's going to be hard in Hampton Roads to not have military involvement in anything.
Exactly.
But and I'm happy to say there's more Navy families now than there are Army families in Troop 31.
That is interesting, because that's part of my pitch. I think if you live in Hampton, you can get to the Navy base faster than you can if
absolutely.
you live in Virginia Beach or Chesapeake or even parts of Norfolk. I mean,
Absolutely.
certainly the tunnel can disrupt that once in a while, but
I worked in an office in Norfolk, and everybody else I worked with seemed like they lived in Virginia Beach or in Chesapeake, and they would go, "Oh my God, you have to drive the HRBT every day." Yeah, sure. I would rather not drive the HRBT.
Especially
but
on Friday afternoons,
How
but-
long does it take you? And they said, it takes me, if there's no bridge openings, it takes me 35 minutes. I said, it takes me exactly 35 minutes door to door, and I know what I've got. I don't have random bridge openings, So it's very accessible. In addition, shipyards. A lot of the Navy are coming over from the shipyards and that, and so it's a great place for Navy. So.
And Chris, you come down from Jamestown or James City,
Williamsburg, yeah.
Williamsburg. Okay, but there must be some special character of either the troop or Fort Monroe that keeps this going. What is it for you? What makes you make that drive?
Well, it's a very interesting troop. Like no other troop meets in the casemate. It's a very cool thing to do. Also, I've just been in this troop for a long time because I used to live on Fort Monroe until the base closed. So I've just been at Troop 31, and it's one of the coolest troops I've seen. Like if you go and look at all the other troops.
Yeah, and your nickname, we should say, I don't know if we said this earlier, I can't remember, the troop's nickname?
Oh, the Moat Monsters?
The Moat Monsters. And that really was from early in its history, right?
Yes.
That came about. I mean, I think that, it kind of sums it up. No other Boy Scout troop in the country can claim that heritage. So congratulations on leading the current troop and being around here for 100 years. It's quite a feat.
Thank you.
All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we close? What if kids are watching this or parents are watching this, because sometimes parents drive this decision or at least shape it. How can they get in touch with your troop? How can they learn more?
Well, first we meet Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock in the chapel annex inside the moat there in Fort Monroe. Certainly welcome to come by and check out meetings anytime. During the summer times, we don't have the meetings there. We'll be out at Music by the Bay, but pretty easy to find us there.
That's right.
In addition, you can go to our website, Troop 31 Moat Monsters, and then, or frankly, go check out any other troop. I would love to have people come and visit Troop 31. I think we're a special troop and would love to have the different experiences and different exposure, but really I would rather have people just involved in Boy Scouts. I think it's a tremendous organization, has something to offer for just about everybody. So if Fort Monroe is not convenient or it's not the place for you, then please go and check out. You can go to scouting.org or the Colonial Virginia Council website, and there's links there to find a troop near you and go check them out. They all have different things to offer and are all fantastic organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I can echo that because, you can't tell by looking at me, but I was in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts as a leader for a lot of years, and it got me outside, got me camping, learned canoeing, learned canoe rescue, learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know and that I still use today. So it was fun, even as an adult. And so let's just throw in, and if you want to volunteer,
Absolutely.
also go to the Colonial Council. Colonial Coast, tell us what that website
Colonial
is.
Virginia Council.
Okay.
You-
The girls,
honestly,
I think, is called Colonial Coast. But scouting as a whole, in any way, shape, or form, it is important that we all help shape kids and volunteer if that is something we are able to do.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you have learned a little bit about Hampton's history and scouting's history, at least here in Hampton, and how that continues today. And if you're interested, please contact them or another scout organization. Thanks for watching.